The important topic of how to effectively deal with stress and anxiety, I think something that all of us experiences more and more. So just by way of introduction, those of you who don't know me, I head up an organization called Soldati, the Southern African Leadership Development and Training Institute, where we believe in growing leaders and impacting results. And we also own a company called Soft Skills Solutions, where if you go to soldati.com and click on the Soft Skills Solutions tab, you can register for masterclasses that we offer. We started with those 3, but we're certainly looking at expanding those in 2024. And an important note is that we don't only do it at our training facilities at Rand Park Ridge, at our offices, but if you contact me, you are more than welcome to organize with me that we do that in groups of 12 or more at your training facilities. And we also do customized soft skills solutions masterclasses. As far as the housekeeping is concerned, thank you very much for joining us. It's great to have you. Please mute if you haven't done so already, unless you want to ask a question at the end. I will aim at 25 minutes of presentation and then 5 minutes of Q&A more or less at the end. Please use the chat box as last resort, because we typically don't get a chance in this short space of time that we spend time together to look at it. And yeah, you're welcome to mail me afterwards if you want a copy of the presentation. Otherwise, just wait for it, like I said, in a week's time, before the end of next week. It will be listed on our website under the, if you go to soldati.com, under the Insights tab. And then also, please, I plead to you to please mail me with future topics. I, at some point, will run out of ideas and topics. So please mail me, and I will gladly look at it and present to you what you need to hear from us and from me. So my disclaimer, just very quickly, I don't have the magic wand that will give you all the answers and all the solutions. No. But what I do want to aim to be successful in is to give you different perspectives around specifically the topics that we discuss and we cover. And hopefully that will pave the way to you mastering those topics more easily. I do the homework, I do the research, and I spare you that. And it's my privilege and my pleasure to share that with you in the hope that it would assist you. And there's a red dot for a reason, especially as far as today's session is concerned. A big disclaimer. What I do, I've got a PhD in leadership. What I do touches on psychology, clinical psychology, but I'm not a trained clinical psychologist. My message to you is, use it, don't use it. If you feel that what I share with you absolutely makes sense and it's something that you can apply and use, please go ahead and do that. And hopefully it would be something that you never thought of or haven't thought of recently, certainly, or thought of before. My invitation to you is to reflect, to think about the content, see how you can apply it, and especially upon reflection, work on the areas where you believe you've got the biggest gaps between where you currently are and where also realizing what I share with you, where you would like to be in life in relation to the topics. Why are you here? Well, I think increasingly it gets to a point where we all feel like that. We feel like a time bomb. There's just too much stress. There's just too much anxiety around. And ultimately, we just like to find mechanisms to cope. So obviously, when we discuss and cover the content today, I'm looking at healthy and sustainable coping mechanisms. Because if we talk to the contrary, and we look at unhealthy coping mechanisms, like doing that, I'm not saying that's totally out of question, absolutely, especially on a Friday evening. But if that's your way of coping, or even that, we've got a problem. And obviously it's not sustainable and certainly not healthy. So here's our reality. We might not be in the same boat, but certainly we are all in the same store. None of us are exonerated from the stresses and feeling anxious in life. None of us. If you ask me by own admission, talking about vulnerability, I do public speaking a number of times a week, sometimes daily, over X amount of weeks. That's part of what I do for a living. Do I feel stressful and anxious before I do a presentation like this? Absolutely. Does it help me if I prepare, if I know my content, if I've done my research? Does that reduce my levels of stress and anxiety? Absolutely. We've got 2 choices in life in relation to our topic today. We can either do something about it to get to better outcomes, or we can just do nothing. But, and here's the big but, if we do nothing, we need to be content with the fact that we're not going to get different, better results. We need to do things differently better in order to get better outcomes. So let's look at the definitions. And by the way, look at the top left at the amount of hits I got when I just typed in stress. According to the online Oxford Dictionary, stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. If I look at the definition of anxiety, it is simply a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease about something with an uncertain outcome. I don't know how the outcome of the session is going to be. I always check for load shedding, but it's not supposed to be load shedding. But who knows what might happen? Anxiousness, in addition to stress. And again, look at the amount of hits we get when we Google it. And I'm showing that to you purely to indicate that these issues, ladies and gentlemen, they are real. That's what we experience in a very serious way on a daily basis. So what's the difference between stress and anxiety? And as always, I only consult credible sources. In this case, the American Psychological Association. Well, there's some food for thought. They start off by saying that there's a fine line between stress and anxiety. Both are emotional responses, but stress is typically caused by an external trigger. Now, let's follow the highlighted sections for a second. People under stress experience mental and physical symptoms, such as irritability, anger, fatigue, muscle pain, digestive troubles, and difficult sleeping. Anxiety, on the contrary, is defined by persistent, excessive worries that don't go away even in the absence of a stressor. And look at the last paragraph. Both mild stress and mild anxiety respond well to similar coping mechanisms. Like, and I want to emphasize, like getting the basics right. Physical activity, a nutritious and varied diet, good sleep hygiene as starting points. And talking about the basics, if we ask the question and we talk about getting the basics right and knowing that the results will follow, how are you doing? How am I doing in getting the basics right? Because if we get those basics right, we are just putting ourselves over the advantage line in terms of coping with stress and anxiety. All starts with the basics. Lays the foundation. First of all, let's look at stress management. Let's look at what this video tells us. And please immediately give me a shout if you can't hear the sound. I did click on share sound, so it should be fine.
Work can be incredibly rewarding, but turns out it can also be incredibly stressful. So if you need help managing the stress, Gretchen Rubin, the author of The 4 Tendencies, gives us some tips.
One of the problems with people at work is they say, I'm so stressed. The problem with saying I'm stressed, it's not specific, so it doesn't suggest any solutions. Because you could be stressed because you have a terrible commute, because you're having conflict with your boss, because someone got laid off and now you're doing the work of 2 people, because it's freezing cold in your office all the time. When you really take the time to identify the problem, a lot of times you can spot solutions. But if you just keep repeating, I'm stressed, it doesn't help you progress and figure out how to fix the problem. So one way to be less stressed at work is to give yourself some uninterrupted time. Research shows that people are interrupted constantly throughout their day, and every time we're taken off of one task, it takes us a long time to get back into our stream of thought. Whether it's closing your door, putting on your headphones, arriving early if you're a morning person so you're there before most of the people are in the office, find some uninterrupted time so that you can really get that deep concentration that you need. Another thing that you could do is try to make a friend at work. Research shows that people who have a friend at work, not just somebody that they're making chit-chat with, but somebody who they feel like has their back, somebody that they can confide in, someone who's a real friend, that makes us happier at work, and that makes us feel like we have people that we can rely on. One thing that people often forget at work is their body. Our physical experience always colors our emotional experience and our energy level. And so really, it helps to pay attention to our body, whether that's making sure that you get enough sleep the night before, adjusting your desk chair so that you're not too high or too low, working on eye strain so that you're not have like a window glaring into your face, using a headset for phone calls. Working on our body, staying comfortable, help us keep energized and also help us stay patient and good-tempered as we go through the stresses of our day.
So that's what Gretchen tells us about how do we deal with stress at work. And just to summarize, it's about identifying the problem first of all, making your own time, Thirdly, find a friend, making friends. And finally, taking care of yourself. Look after your body, look after yourself. Now, obviously, it goes beyond work because we need to say, okay, but hang on, how do I deal with stress also away from work? Well, I can very easily give you a list of 25 coping mechanisms as far as stress and anxiety for that matter is concerned, time permitting. But that to me would be counterproductive because simply we are all unique. What relieves your stress does not necessarily, apart from the basics that we know and what we've mentioned, apart from that, what makes you de-stress, that does not help me necessarily as far as the coping mechanism is concerned to deal better with stress. Who knows you best? Who knows me best? Me, myself, and I, right? And here's the thing. I want you to do a little bit of group reflection. And I want you to please shout out the answer to this question. I will start. And the question is simply, what are the things in your life as an individual, as a unique individual, that assist you to better deal with stress at work and away from work? And I will start. I'm training for a race on the 16th of March in Franschhoek area in the Berg River Dam. I do open water swimming. That de-stresses me. Riding my motorcycle, that de-stresses me. Please, shout out. Talk about vulnerability. Don't be shy. What else makes you de-stressed? Anyone?
Sleep, running.
Sleeping, running, walking. Please, carry on.
Gym.
Reading.
Gym, reading.
Listening to music.
Music. What was the other one? Watching? Go for it. Carry on.
Comedy shows, watching comedy.
Yeah. And more, just to prove the point that we're all unique. What de-stresses you does not necessarily de-stress me. And here's the thing. My challenge to you is to list the 3 things. Let's make it simple. Start with the 3 things in your life that you can do that you know works for you from a de-stressing point of view. And in fact, it shouldn't be my challenge to you, it should be your challenge to yourself. And when you get to bed at night, just before you fall asleep, hopefully you'll be smiling like this lady to say, you know what, I've actually done all those 3 things. If it's not today, it's certainly over the last couple of days. That's my challenge to you. That should be your challenge to yourself. And during my past week of travels, I arrived last night after 10 o'clock in Joburg. We're traveling the whole week in Cape Town. Yesterday, this time, I was on a mountain at a big apple farm on the far side of Ceres. Beautiful place, and I just realized how beautiful our country is. I was constantly, with my travels, focusing on charging my phone battery, charging my Apple Watch battery, charging my Dell computer's battery. But that's finding a coping mechanism just to survive and to do business. But that's not the important question. The important question to me is, and to you should be, the big question should be, how do I charge my life batteries? Knowing me the best, what I do to charge my life batteries. And one thing I came to realize is, like Confucius said, life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. For some reason we do. And don't let go of your daily routines, especially if you are too busy, because we do get busy times. If that happens, like I'm swimming for a race, if I don't have time to do 60, 70 laps in the pool, I just do 30. Or if I don't have time to get into my car, go to gym, come back, I take the dog for a walk. At least I get out. Spend time with my best friend, which is not the dog, by the way, it's my wife, Molly. Get some vitamin D, just get out. Let's look at our second part of the topic, or second topic, anxiety. Lao Tzu said, Chinese philosopher, he said, if you are depressed, you're living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. And if you are at peace, you are living in the present.
We can look at anxiety as misfirings of our neurons or imbalances of our brain chemistry, or we can see anxiety as a messenger from the subconscious telling us, similar to pain, that there are certain wounds that need to be addressed, certain root causes that need to be resolved. I find that there are 3 root causes. One is the emotional baggage of the past. Second is the inner conflict that we are struggling with, where a part of us wants to be confidently engaged in life, and another part of us holds us back. And the third root cause are the core limiting beliefs, such as, I'm not good enough, I don't fit in, or the world is a dangerous place. All those three root causes stem from our childhood. And when we resolve them, we can become the empowered adult who is not only overcoming anxiety, but outgrowing it.
So the reality is there are multiple causes for anxiety. And some of it we are more in control of than others. And I want to focus on the number 3 that he mentioned, being your core limiting beliefs, such as those 3 things. I'm not good enough. I don't fit in. The world's a dangerous place. You see, the thing is, our limiting beliefs does not equal the facts. Our reality is very, very often and typically not the truth. It's stuff that we tell ourselves. I love this picture that I got when I researched the content to present to you today. Change the stories you tell yourself to change your life. Don't tell yourself stuff that's not really the truth. That's only your perception. And to me, that's where self-talk comes in. In the way you speak to yourself, are you your own best friend or your own own worst enemy? Telling yourself sometimes just to breathe, causing you to be less anxious. This morning I had a guy, I was on my way to a breakfast appointment, business breakfast appointment, had a guy that pulled up right in front of me. And then he stuck to 40 k's an hour and I couldn't pass him. And I told myself, Hekkie, you're not going to hit today. And he was in his phone, best of all. And I said, you're going to behave. You're going to keep your following distance. And I did that. And I spoke to myself. Now I found, ladies and gents, one of the best mechanisms, and trust me, I'm into this stuff. I'm on this personal developmental journey since I was in high school. One of the most effective mechanisms to me is to talk to myself. Because ultimately, I only have myself. So what if we can tell ourselves different stories, more constructive stories, stories that are actually the truth, as opposed to us, almost want to say, degrading ourselves, demoting ourselves sometimes. And here's the reality. What if we can tell ourselves stories that will make us stress less? Because 85%, more or less, just to drive the point home, of things that we worry about never happens. According to the Mayo Clinic, which is definitely a site that I know is credible, just to confirm, anxiety is the intense, excessive, and persistent worry of fear about everyday situations. Fast heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating, and feeling tired may occur as a result. And look at this, self-treatment, talking about getting back to the basics we spoke about earlier on the stress management. Physical activity, a healthy diet, regular sleep, and relaxation exercises may all help to reduce anxiety. Joining a support group. To manage symptoms effectively, it's best to avoid caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine. And I know it's very difficult for me to avoid caffeine, certainly in the morning. I did a search the other day, just as a side note. Did you know that caffeine stays for 10 hours in your body? That's from after reading that, after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I try and avoid caffeine. I tried to Google, or I did Google, is there a link between anxiety and depression? Check the amount of hits I got, 551 million. So certainly there is a link. And I'm not going to read that in the interest of time, but I'm going to read the first sentence. Anxiety may occur as a symptom of clinical or major depression. And when you should seek help, it's okay. There's no shame in that. Know that. Clinical psychologist or seeing a therapist or even a psychiatrist, that's okay. And as a last resort, and I've changed my mind as part of my growth and around perceptions as well. And no, I'm not on antidepressants, but some of my family members are. And it's okay. If you, as a last resort, have to go that route. Steve Marabali said, life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient. And my plea to you is, whatever it takes, the moment is now to look after yourself. Also specific in relation to managing your stress and dealing with your anxieties. And don't underestimate the interconnectedness between mind, body, and soul. And may you look after all those 3 every day in and day out. And I want to invite you to make more time to intentionally reflect on your life. Paul and Simorel said, the more reflective you are, the more effective you are, because only then you can gauge if what you're doing actually causes or delivers the right results. And if not, you need to tweak and change. Final thought. Who's in charge? You're in charge. I'm in charge of our lives. And there's 3 things I want you to consider, which I think are key to affecting meaningful change in life. First one is motivation. And the mere fact that you guys are all here, there's certainly motivation. So well done for that. Second one is choice. Do you choose to take the things I've shared with you in a very short space of time and do something with it and do something differently better? That's a question you need to answer yourself. And thirdly, do I have the discipline to follow through on those choices? One of my favorite quotes in the world, Thomas Jefferson rather, 4th American president as far as I recall. If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. Wrote a book on this stuff. If you're interested, please join our next webinar on the 8th of March, God willing. I've gone fairly wide. It's our 16th webinar today, and I'm going for 2 sessions. I'll go a little bit deeper into specific topics, vulnerability and motivation in April. That, ladies and gents, is the end. I thank you very much. If you have not joined me yet on LinkedIn, please invite me. There's my details. I'm going to stop presenting. And we don't have that much time left. We've got a couple of minutes. I hope that was worth your while. Any questions?
Hekkie, I want to ask, to reduce stress and anxiety, if you plan your day, week and month and ahead, okay, there will happen things in life. Life happens.
Yeah, they always do.
If you have a major structure, won't that also decrease that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good point. Thanks, Mia. The guy that I used to work for, I mentioned this in a previous webinar, said, success without planning is luck. I've got 2 diaries. My detailed diary, like when I coach people, it's in my Outlook. But then I have an Excel diary where I can pretty much see the whole year broken up in daily portions. I can see the whole year almost at a glance. And there I always look 2-3 weeks ahead, more than once a day, because at least my subconscious mind then starts to work on how will I affect success, or how will I cause those actions to be successful. And yes, like you said, anything can happen. But if we don't plan and work our plan, we are definitely going to be more anxious because we don't know what's lurking around the corner. And if we plan, at least the chance of success is just so much higher. Good one. Thanks a lot. Ladies and gents, thank you once again for joining me. I'm looking forward to seeing you in March again for our next Free Friday Lunch webinar. I wish you all the best and success, not only in dealing with stress and anxiety, but also as far as enjoying your weekend's concerned. Keep well. Look after yourselves.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much.